political chaos, all attention has now shifted to the legality of the Prime Minister's recommendation to dissolve the House of Representatives. The constitutional experts are harping that there is no provision in the National Charter for the executive head to recommend the dissolution of the majority government in the present context. Given the scenario, the bone of contention in the upcoming days is bound to be reinstatement of the Parliament. Good morning, I'm Sarah Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. Massive protest held against the move of dissolving the House of Representatives. The decision meets massive criticism from all quarters. The ruling NCP gears up to oust Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli from the party to table disciplinary action against the Premier at the Central Committee meeting tomorrow. European nations start imposing travel bans on the UK after it reported a more infectious and out-of-control coronavirus variant. And Manchester United hammer Leeds United 6-2 at Old Trafford. Leicester chalk out a 2-0 win over Tottenham to move to the second position. There has been massive protest against the move of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli as cadres of various political parties have staged massive demonstration in different places across the country. Citing that the move by the Prime Minister and the President is anti-constitutional, even the cadres of the ruling party have held street demonstrations. NCP's organizational groups held demonstrations from the capital's Maitighar to New Baneshwar yesterday. The leaders affiliated to the various sister organizations sloganeered against the Prime Minister and the President. The participants alleged the Prime Minister of pushing the nation into chaos by the dissolution of the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, following the political development, the security arrangement in the capital has been beefed up. Likewise, demonstrations have also been held outside the capital. There were protest programs held in Jhapa, Biratnagar, Hetauda, Pokhara, Chitwan, Nepalganj, Dhangadi, among other places. The ruling party and the main opposition, Nepali Congress, held separate demonstrations in these places. The cadres of the ruling party have also burned an effigy of the Prime Minister in his home district of Chapa. Meanwhile, talking to Kantipur News, the former President Rambaran Yadav has also labelled the yesterday's move by the Prime Minister and the President as anti-constitutional and a massive setback to the very spirit of the Constitution. President Bidya Devi Bhandari dissolved the House of Representatives yesterday at the recommendation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The President also announced 2 phases of mid-term elections to be held on 30th of April and 10th of May next year. Prime Minister Oli, by dissolving his majority government, has created unprecedented chaos in the national politics. We have more in this report.
President Bidya Devi Bhandari dissolved the House of Representatives on Sunday, 4 hours after Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's recommendation. Likewise, the midterm election of the House of Representatives was announced for 38th of April and 10th of May next year. President Bhandari took the decision based on sub-articles 1 and 7 of Article 76 and Article 85 of the Constitution. However, Sub-Article 7 of Article 76 speaks about the dissolution of the House of Representatives if the Prime Minister fails to secure a vote of confidence. In a dramatic political development, Prime Minister Oli called an emergency cabinet meeting on Sunday morning and recommended the President to dissolve the House of Representatives. Prime Minister Oli himself reached President's office in Sheetal Niwas, Maharajganj with the cabinet decision. Premier Oli opted to dissolve the parliament after being cornered by the disgruntled faction of the ruling Nepal Communist Party itself. During his meeting on Saturday at Executive Chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal's residence in Kumaltar, Prime Minister Oli urged Dahal to withdraw his political report in which Premier Oli has been charged for harbouring corruption and running the government ineffectively. However, Executive Chairman Dahal rejected the Prime Minister's request and reiterated that the party committee would decide on further steps to be taken. Later on Saturday, Prime Minister Oli met with Home Minister and Secretariat Committee member Ram Bahadur Thapa before calling on President Bhandari later in the evening. Leaders from the ruling Nepal Communist Party and the main opposition Nepali Congress have strongly protested against the recommendation for the dissolution of the parliament, blaming Prime Minister Oli of taking an anti-constitutional step. The Prime Minister has been widely criticized from all quarters for recommending the dissolution of the House of Representatives despite having almost two-thirds majority.
The Standing Committee meeting of the ruling Nepal Communist Party has decided to table the proposal of a disciplinary action against Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli at the Central Committee meeting. The Standing Committee meeting that was held at Prime Minister's official residence in Balwatar 4 hours behind the scheduled time yesterday decided to table the proposal at the Central Committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow. The meeting also decided to hold a nationwide protest against the dissolution of the House of Representatives.
उहाँले जनता देश र पार्टीमाथि गर्नुभएको विश्वासघात र प्रहार नेपाल कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी नेकपाको अन्तरिम 2075 को धारा 56 को कमा व्यवस्थित विभिन्न प्रावधान विरुद्ध भएकोले उहाँमाथि अनुशासनको कारबाहीको लागि केन्द्रीय कमिटीको बैठकमा प्रस्ताव लैजाने निर्णय गर्दछ। यसको लागि पुस 7 गते केन्द्रीय कमिटीको बैठक काठमाडौँमा बोलाउने निर्णय गरे।
Party chairman and Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and leaders close to him, however, did not attend yesterday's meeting. Prior to the meeting, Premier Oli had held discussions with Executive Chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal for about an hour. 7 ministers from the Executive Chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal and Senior Leader Madhav Kumar Nepal factions have resigned en masse protesting against the dissolution of the House of Representatives. Energy Minister Barshaman Pun, Agriculture Minister Ghanashyam Bhushal, Tourism Minister Yogesh Bhatrai, Education Minister Giriraj Mani Pokhrel, Forest Minister Shakti Basnet, Drinking Water Minister Bina Magar and Labour Minister Rameshwar Raya Yadav tendered their resignation following the dramatic development yesterday. Speaking at the press meet in Singadarbar yesterday afternoon, the resigning ministers informed that they stepped down from their post as a mark of protest against the dissolution of the lower house, terming the government's move as unconstitutional and undemocratic. They said that Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli suppressed their effort to avert the situation during the cabinet meeting yesterday morning itself. With the resignation of the 7 ministers, the cabinet now comprises 18 ministers. However, Home Minister Ram Bahadur Thapa and Industry Minister Lekhraj Bhatta, who earlier belonged to the erstwhile Maoist Centre, have opted not to resign. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked the locals in different districts of the country what's their take on the Prime Minister's recommendation to dissolve the House of Representatives. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
सांसद विघटन गर्ने जुन मन्त्री परिषदको निर्णय भयो त्यो देशको लागि चाहिँ अत्यन्त घातक जनताले नसोचेको कुरा भयो।
अत्यन्तै घृणित कार्य हो। यस्ता घृणित कार्यका विरुद्धमा अब नेपाली जनता चुप लागेर बस्दैनन्।
नेकपाको सरकारले सायद यो आफ्नो शक्तिको प्रयोगलाई सदुपयोग गर्न सकेन कि जनताको त्यो विश्वासलाई सही ठाउँमा प्रयोग गर्न सकेन कि जस्तो लाग्दैछ।
राष्ट्रियताप्रति, जनताप्रति, संविधानप्रति गरेको यो अपमान हो र यो राष्ट्र चाहिँ दुर्घटनामा जान सक्छ।
यदि जनताबाट निर्वाचित राष्ट्रपति अथवा प्रधानमन्त्री भइदिएको भए देशले यस्ता दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण कदमहरू हिजो पनि बेहोर्न पर्ने थिएन, आज पनि बेहोर्न पर्ने थिएन।
It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. What's your take on the dissolution of the House of Representatives with a term of 2 years still remaining? Your options are A. Appropriate, B. Inappropriate, and C. Ignoring the Constitution. The voting is on. Type NESS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. It's time now for our special segment, Off the Beat.
fish farmers have now started promoting the region as a hub for what they say fish tourism. People have started visiting these recreational places for fish delicacy and entertainment. There are rooms available in the middle of the pond for engaging in fishing, while other recreational activities include boating and live barbecues where visitors can cook the fish they have caught from the pond water. Over 30 hotels and restaurants, big and small, are operational in Butwal, Bhairava and Lumbini region. The tourist activity that was greatly hampered amid the coronavirus pandemic and extended lockdown has now once again revived thanks to this concept of fish tourism. Temperature has plummeted in eastern Tarai region, including Dhanusha, due to a spell of cold wave in the past 1 week in the region. Groups of people, including children, could be seen making a bonfire in several places. Physically challenged, homeless, and daily wage workers are the ones most affected by the ongoing cold spell. Children and senior citizens have started falling sick due to the cold weather. In the absence of warm clothes, the poverty-stricken families are the ones who have suffered the most due to the prolonged cold spell, as the weather remains murky, covered in a thick blanket of fog for most of the day. Meanwhile, health authorities have urged people to wear warm clothes and include hot soups in their daily intake of food. People have also been asked not to leave their houses except in emergency cases. The cold spell has also taken its toll on cattle and farm produce. This is Sarah Chitrakar for our special segment Off the Beat and Kantipur News Desk.
Before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Massive protest held against the move of dissolving the House of Representatives. The decision meets massive criticism from all quarters. The ruling NCP gears up to oust Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli from the party to table disciplinary action against the Premier at the Central Committee meeting tomorrow. European nations start imposing travel bans on the UK after it reported a more infectious and out-of-control coronavirus variant. And Manchester United hammer Leeds United 6-2 at Old Trafford. Leicester chalk out a 2-0 win over Tottenham to move to the second position. That's all for the moment. Keep watching Kantipur Television HD for more news and entertainment. Good day.